Okay, everybody. Good to be here again on our third week. In week one, we talked about branding. Week two, we built upon that. We talked a little bit about websites and how that relates in that entire ecosystem towards your brand and what that looks like online. Now we're in week three, and we're going to put some gas in the car and go. We're going to start talking about full-on digital marketing. This presentation is rather heavy with vernacular. I'm going to say a lot of terms that might be a little foreign or alien to you guys. The goal here, if you get anything out of this presentation, is to learn some of that vernacular and be able to speak a little more coherently about the ins and outs of both digital marketing and SEO and pay-per-click. Okay, so this is how does Google determine which sites to rank at the top of search engines? Okay, so we're going to start out, as I said, with vernacular. We're going to go over some important terminology here. Okay, so what are important metrics here? Okay, so when you're looking at any analytical set of data related to your website, we're going to talk about sessions and users. So sessions and users measure the amount of traffic coming to your site, where they come and where they go. So a user, myself, visits your website 2 times, which is 2 unique sessions. New and returning visitors. So I've visited your site 2 times. And in that 2 times, I've gone in and those are my sessions. So repeat visitors versus new acquisitions. Your bounce rate, users staying on your website versus ones just leaving immediately. There's a lot of reasons for an increase in bounce rate. A good example could be your site speed, which we talked about last week. If you have a site that's sluggish on a mobile device, that could impact your site speed, your bounce rate. The bigger your bounce rate, of course, the less chances your consumer is going to convert. Average page load time. So this correlates directly to the bounce rate, how slow your site might be. Organic versus paid sessions. And this is the summary of this entire presentation today. So we're talking organic, which is your SEO, people going in and searching for you in Google, MSN, Bing, or any other search engine, and you coming up on top of all your competitors on page 1. Versus a paid search, which is somebody who's organically searching for you. However, you're paying for that top position. So you're paying for that click, and that's why we call it pay-per-click. Top landing pages. What are the top landing pages on your website, and what pages are most relevant to your target consumer? You could start to make some correlations once you go in and look at the analytics. You could say that, okay, a lot of people are coming in on this specific article that I have on my website or blog. Now that blog is ranking heavy in search or in the SERPs, as we call them. If they're ranking heavy in the search and they're coming in off that traffic, there's a correlation there. What did you do on that page that might affect the rest of your website that you can make the entire website better? If people are coming in off those top landing pages, but they don't have a conversion point, which we talked about last week, such as a contact submit form, a phone number to call, or some way of getting to your e-commerce portion of your website. If you don't have conversion points on your top landing pages, that might correlate to why you're not getting conversions. Okay, what are channels? So channels here are rather straightforward. You have your direct channel. That's people finding you via www.com. So in our case, www.activewebgroup.com. Now, if someone came to me via that and they converted, I would not count that as a piece of traffic from SEO. A reason being, of course, they knew my domain, they knew who I was, they knew about my brand prior, whether they got a business card or some kind of tangible material, they heard word of mouth. However they found out about us, they went to our website directly. So that counts towards some kind of ancillary traffic that I wouldn't count as organic. Now, organic is your SEO, people finding you via keyword search. Digital marketing companies near me, Long Island web design, things of that nature. So if I came in off those keywords, that counts as an organic search query. Paid is very similar to organic, only again, I'm paying for that position. So I'm showing up in the top of Google because I pay to be there. And I pay per click. Let's say, for example, Long Island SEO is a 50 cent per click key term, rather high CPC, but it could be. So I'm paying every time someone clicks in there, 50 cents. Whether they convert or not, that's an important thing to know too. And then to know what your conversion rate is, we're going to get into all that. Social. So they came in off social, whether it be a paid spend on social. You can, of course, spend money to pay for advertising on social, but also could be organically. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and things with ads. Referral are users coming in outside search or SERPs via backlink. So they could come from a directory, for example. Active Web Group is in the top 100 advertising firms in the Northeast on some website. They would click there and they come off that directory. Email, so email marketing, very straightforward. You put out an email newsletter, people clicked on that, and then they went to your website. Okay, KPIs, for those of you who don't know, are key performance indicators. These are measurable factors that tie into your business goals. KPI for me would be if someone clicks on my contact page and fills out a form. That's my most important KPI. Someone clicks on my phone number. We've talked about emergency response plumbers, for example. So what is the key KPIs on my website that tie into my business goal? For us here as business owners, the factor is conversion, of course. Data, of course. So here I'm looking at a screen grab of Google Analytics. Google Analytics is really the hub for all of your data. There's other data conglomerates out there, but Google really has the is dominating this. Of course, Google is the #1 used search engine in the world, so naturally by proxy, they dominate the platform. So you would tie in all your efforts towards Google Analytics. Make sure you have a proper setup on your website. So this way you have all your goals in check, which we talked about last week. So your tier 1, 2, and 3 goals, for example, a phone number, contact us today, and then maybe an email if you're a contact capture as a goal completion, or e-commerce, of course, where they're clicking and where they're going and what they're buying. Okay. Tag Manager. So Google Tag Manager is a installation within part of the Google Analytics family here. But what this does is it gives you deep water tracking to know where people are going, what they're clicking, and different things about them, about the user. Now, Google Analytics, you could do a lot with this. You could serve a unique user, dynamic content. So in an example, I'm a vitamin manufacturer. And I have supplements for people ranging from age 10 all the way up to 90 years old, all the way up to the end of life. So I have vitamins for everybody. Now in marketing, as we know, it's not best to just blast a broad net out there. You have to laser focus in your messaging for the consumer. So with Google Tag Manager, we could start to do that. An example I could give you is if one of my consumers is a senior citizen, I sell bone density supplements. I could serve them on the front of my website a image of 2 seniors, just enjoying life with a little grab at a bone density supplement, and click to that page or click to a unique landing page there. If I am 18 to 35-year-old male, I could serve them something related to protein supplements, right? So different things. I could serve prenatal vitamins, different things I could serve to different audiences. And Google knows who you are based on your cookies. So Google has a lot of information about you. From that, we could take that information and we could use that to serve you dynamic content. A lot of that is done within Google Tag Manager. Tag Manager is a little complex. It's not something for a beginner user. It's a very advanced program or tool, but at the very least, you could set up all your goals and tracking within Google Tag Manager that would then show up within your hub, which is Google Analytics. Okay, so as we talked about previously, everything kind of has its own pathway here, and the same is true with SEO. So with SEO, you always start with your strategy, right? I'm going to have proper strategy implementation. I'm going to review everything as a whole here. So my strategy here is I'm going to do some keyword research. I'm going to review all the keywords that I might want to rank for versus what my competitor is ranking for. And I am going to find 1, a unique position, and 2, focus on stuff, maybe either low-hanging fruit, so things that are easier to rank for at first, or things that have warrant the most traffic. Now, just keep in mind the things that warrant the most traffic also might be the most hard-fought key terms. In the case of, we're talking about Coca-Cola. If I just came up with a really cool local soft drink, I'm trying to rank for soda or soft drinks, right? Let's use soda in this example. Obviously, Google, Pepsi, all those brands have that dominated. It's going to be very hard for me to build out as many pages as they have on the web within a couple months to outrank them for the term soda, right? However, is there something else out there that I could quickly work on and hack and rank for while I'm in the back end working on that soda keyword, which can happen. I'm going to get to that later. So I could work on something, let's say, local organic root beer or organic root beer, or maybe there's a term there that's has, of course, lower search volume because it's not something so broad as soda, but it my competitors aren't ranking as well for it. So it's looking at the search volume, how many people are searching for things versus the keyword difficulty, to really start to figure out your goals and where you should start, where you should focus your efforts on. Of course, you're focusing on those long wish goals, which is, for example, soda. But your short term, your easier to hit ones, your ones within what we call striking distance, will help you, get to where you have to go as quick as you possibly can. Now, with keywords, you then have your content strategy in place. Now, that's when everyone says, hey, you should write some blog articles. I always say you should always be puffing up your chest, so to speak, with your website. You should always be expanding your website, making it bigger. Like people have a child, they add on to their house. You should always be adding on to your website. One, Google says, okay, this is a website that's constantly refreshed and updated. If my competitor just had a set it and forget it website, I would be able to eclipse them quicker because I'm working on my website continually. One of the things Google checks off, and there are thousands of things. So building content, building out your website, coming up with unique landing pages by location. I serve the metropolitan area, so I would have a landing page specific to Queens, specific to Brooklyn, some of the other boroughs, on Long Island, different townships within Long Island, for example. I'd write unique content geared towards that, while making sure my key terms are properly in place. Links, you want to have inbound links towards your website, things that live within your ecosystem of your website, and then your outbound links. Your outbound links, or the ones that come out of your website, will help you, but the ones that come into your website will help you based on your domain authority. Your domain authority is a score that the search engines give you based on what we'll call clout or merit. And the best way I always explain this is, if I was looking for a job at Active Web Group, I know Scott Ford, the founder and CEO of Active Web Group. I said, hey, I think I would be great for the job. Or a friend would say, hey, Scott, Frank would be great for this job. Scott then interviews me and I get the job. It's because I knew a friend, or I knew somebody that I was able to kind of rise up and get the position, right? The same is true with domain authority on websites. If I get a quality link in the New York Times, Google is going to say, okay, this website ranks better because the New York Times likes this website, or another periodical. It doesn't have to be as advanced as the New York Times. For example, with a vitamin supplement company, for example, if I get a link in some kind of medical journal that has high clout, right, that might help me and raise my equity, right, my domain equity. Okay, blogs go in hand with content. The HTML stuff, or the stuff that happens within the back end of the website, your titles, tags, metadata, some of the other stuff we're going to talk about momentarily. Marketing, of course. Now, your 360 marketing approach, what are you doing? Are you focusing on pay-per-click with SEO? As you build out your SEO strategy, if you want to do some pay-per-click to bridge the gap, which I'll talk about a little later, but if you want to do that, what happens is, over time, if you're ranking for something properly, Google is going to say, okay, this site does sell vitamins. I'm going to, since they're bidding on that, you would pay a lower CPC. You would get that cost per click down. So having a great SEO strategy will help you there, rather than just give Google a bunch of money for no reason. Your popularity, again, domain authority. The design of your website is something that will impact you. If you have a website that is not mobile friendly, as we talked about last week, something where it's slow, you don't have proper structure that Google would expect, a proper navigational structure, you don't have a footer, if you don't have anything on the website that's not indexable. So these are things that will impact you overall for your SEO strategy. There's more to it. I'm oversimplifying a bit. This is as simple as I could possibly present it to you guys, but these are the key factors here. Now, Again, analytics, getting your analytical setup in place is going to be vital to getting your site to perform. If I do all this work and then I can't, gauge my results, what's the point of it? So the first step here is always getting Google Analytics installed, being able to understand and measure that stuff. Again, we first talked about the terminology here, from sessions, metrics, users, etc. We talked about all that. So you should be able to look at that visually and understand what Google is talking about. But having Google Analytics set up, installed, and set up properly is important. You don't just say put it on www.activewebgroup.com, attach it to analytics, and that's it. There's more to do in your setup and tracking. You have to set up your goals, set up where people are going, make sure you're looking at your dashboard properly, and you can arrange your dashboard any which way you would like. So it's important that you understand the metrics that you want to see. You're able to put them and organize them in a cohesive fashion. Okay, there are thousands of factors that go into the ranking formula, okay, in Google, thousands. But I want to give you the couple that are going to be most impactful, or the ones that we could work together here on. Okay, so content, as I said, you want to puff up your chest. You want to continue to write content and build out your website. You want to keep building pages. You don't want to just build pages just to build pages, though. I've seen that happen. And you don't want to clutter up your top level navigation. We talked about that last week. But you want to build content, right? You want to build structured content within looking at your keyword research. So you have your keyword research. You're thinking about what terms you could possibly rank for that are within striking distance, your tier 1 and your tier 2 goals, so ones that aren't exactly within striking distance, but have better search volume. So you're strategizing there on what to do, and you're writing content on a streamlined calendar monthly. Everyone always asks me how much content to write. I'm sure I'm going to get a question about that. It's going to depend on how worse off you are within the search. If you're just a new website starting out, which I'm sure a lot of us here are, we don't rank for anything, there's a lot of work to do. The same could be said about someone who has a vitamin company that's going against some big box competitors, right? If I'm going against GNC, I'm going to have to strategize to write out a lot of content, right, to get that indexed in Google. So it's just knowing where you are and where you want to go based on how many pages. But I would say the minimum would be 2 pages of content per month you want to build out. Those could be service pages. Those could be location-based pages. Those could be blogs or articles. They all don't have to be salesy. They all don't have to be authoritarian, but you should be strategizing and focusing on your keywords. Okay, the website itself that you have. So the website itself that you have matters. I gave a presentation like this last week, and we were talking about what about Squarespace, Frank? Does Squarespace inhibit my ability to rank? Yes and no. So Squarespace has its own drag and drop CMS on the back end to make it simple for you guys to go in and edit a website. We talked about last week the pros and cons from a design standpoint with those websites. Now the pros and cons with those from a digital marketing standpoint are a little greater. I don't necessarily have the ability to get in the back end of that code in Squarespace or Wix. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends on whether you're behind the paywall, you're paying or not. If I don't, it's going to limit my ability to go in and make changes in the HTML or the backend code structure to be able to rank properly for stuff. If there's things I want to change, title tags, meta, etc., I'm going to want to have access to as much as possible to be able to make changes that I know will be able to help me in the search. If I can't access them, obviously I can't make those changes. So some of those freemium ones, they're freemium. You get a couple things, you don't get everything that you possibly could want. So you have to weigh the pros and cons here, as I said. But some of the more professional ones, WordPress, if you have a custom Magento shopping website, there's ones like GoDaddy and 1-in-1 that are builders. Those are probably the worst of the worst. There's all types of websites that you possibly could have here, all types of CMSs you could use. My advice, I love the WordPress websites. Of course, I love customized websites. The professional Shopify websites are great. So there's plenty out there. And also know, we talked about this last week, but aside from SEO and digital marketing, I mean, it does tie into digital marketing. If you have a, I have Zoho here for a reason. If you have a custom marketing lead software that you use, let's say you're in the fitness industry and you use MindBody, for example. If you're using MindBody, it might not integrate with Squarespace or Wix or Weebly. So you're already kind of from an SOP, a standard operating procedure on your sales cycle, you're already behind the 8 ball because you have something, your website now that doesn't integrate with your CRM software. So just knowing what you need to do, what you need to get, is going to help you in the long run. And again, if you're looking to rank for stuff, having a professional start is better than not. I have ranked Squarespace, Wix sites, etc. successfully. It just takes time and it just takes commitment, but it is possible to get them to outrank a lot of more professional websites. Okay, keywords. We talked about keywords. Keywords are king here. Not just I have a lot of clients that come to me, a lot of prospective clients that will come to me and they will say, Frank, I have these keywords that I like your keyword list that you did. I always perform a keyword research analysis based on your competitors and some other outstanding factors. But when I'm running a keyword audit, I'm always looking at a lot of different factors. Now, when I have a client or a prospective client come to me based on the keyword list I gave them, and they say, I want to rank for something, I want to rank for this random term that has nothing to do with either nothing to do or it doesn't have any search volume. It's important to know that why you're not going to waste a little time on something. If it has no search volume, if it's something that is a little abstract, like it could be a hard fought term, or it could be very technical to what you do, right? Very close to the vest. If that's the case, it might not be something you want to attack right away. Unless you're a B2B and you have a very specific niche industry that you're looking for a specific niche decision maker who would understand that terminology or vernacular. Let's say you're a manufacturer, you manufacture thread gauges or something like that. And you have a very unique technical spec for something that the person would search for that. You got to understand your search volume is going to be very low, but that is the consumer that you want. That's the person you want to be viewing your stuff. So being able to balance that and understand, who you are in the marketplace, what your key demographic is, who the person who might be searching for you. Again, we built on this over the past couple of weeks, but knowing your audience is going to help you here tremendously. Okay, the next item is your titles, tags, metadata, all the things that happen in the back-end technical SEO. Okay, so you'll see the title of the site, right? What is the title of the site? That shows up in of course, this is the head of that code structure, that HTML, but that will show up as the title in the search. Your keywords, if you put your keywords there, this will help you when Google is reading your website. So Google reads a website like a magazine, they're just gonna read it up and down. If you nest content, so you have fly out menus, things you have to, like the little carrot and the drop down, things in what we call an iframe. So things that are from a third-party piece of code that's just called in on a website, Google's not going to read this stuff. So it's not something we should spin our wheels about necessarily. There are some tricks there, some backwater tricks, but speaking elementary, so to speak, you don't want to nest your content. You want everything to be there for Google to read, right? Think about if you have an advertisement in a magazine, and remember when they used to do those little cute scratch off things? So you'd scratch it off to get something, to see something, like a little gold thing, and you've won or whatever. Imagine if if someone's reading that, it's behind something. So if I don't scratch it off, I'm not going to read it, and Google's not going to scratch off that little thing. So make sure all your stuff you're trying to rank for is visible and readable. Your descriptions, this description will probably get put in the SERPs of Google. And then you want to have different information, anything else you want to include there that will help Google understand who your site is, where it should rank you, etc. Okay, Lastly, domain authority. So we talked about the domain authority. Domain authority is important. So your domain authority, again, as I explained, is a relationship between you and another business based on links. If someone is referring you as a referral link, that might come up under referral traffic in Google. If someone is referring you, referring your website, you then may be able to raise your equity within Google, and Google will say, okay, instead of having a DA or a domain authority of 10, we're now going to rank at 20. You have more outbound links or inbound link. You have more links, so that's going to help you. So getting a good CLB, a custom link building strategy in place is going to be vital in ranking, especially if it's that you're ranking neck and neck with a competitor, right? And this, I see this a lot. You're ranking, they're ranking 4. Then next month, they're ranking 4, you're ranking 3, they're ranking 3. You guys are just, fighting to get to 1, and it's moving around a lot, right? To keep that position locked in place, it might be something that's as simple as, it's not simple, but something as easy to check off as your domain authority and coming up with a good link building strategy. Now you need a lot. It's not that you get one quality link. You need to get a lot of quality links, and you need to continue this campaign throughout the months. And they need to be within your ecosystem of what you do. So as a digital marketing firm, I don't want to get on cars.com necessarily, right? Because it's not going to be still relatable, and Google's going to know that. So you want to be within what you do, but getting links to your website will help you if you're in that situation I just described, but you should be continually seeking out good links. A responsive website, again, this ties back into last week. You'll remember the slide from last week, but having a responsive website will be helpful for you. Google has what's called the mobile first indexing. So Google is going to rank your website first based on how it perceives it on a mobile device. So regardless of whether you're a B2B or not, we talked about, you may have more traffic Monday through Friday on a desktop computer versus, if you're a consumer driven website, but either way, you want to have a responsive website or adaptive. We talked about that, but you want to have a website that's mobile friendly. Now Google will then say, okay, ranks good on a mobile device. You have a good site speed. It will then rank your website on a desktop, and then it will tie those factors together. But again, you want to make sure your website responds just as well on the desktop as it does on the mobile device. A lot of times as a digital marketer / designer, I'll go in and I will think about the ins and outs of the website first from a mobile device before I factor it in on a website, right? I can always scale up. So again, mobile device, have a mobile friendly website. Site speed, again, talked about this last week. Site speed could be a tremendous factor for your website. Again, that could tie into the design of your website if your site is not fast on a mobile device. But this could cause your users to bounce, or it could just completely shred your rankings, right? I've seen this happen before too, and then we had to go in and redesign the website. Now, there are products like AMP out there, which is a Google product. So Google will, what this does is it's a way of completely redesigning your website. But what it does is it strips all of the information off your website that are more visual and might slow down your website. It almost turns into more of I call it a Word document, but it's not so much of you can make them semi-visual, but you can't put all the bells and whistles that you want to put onto your website. You can't have things spin around and do crazy stuff with videos. This is done to have the fastest possible website. And since it's a Google product with fast websites, Google's going to give you a thumbs up rather quickly. So if you have an authoritarian website, this might be something to consider attacking. But again, this isn't an end-all be-all situation. It's not something that has to be in place, but it is something that I found helpful in various scenarios. So it's something I wanted to mention. Now, the most important factor of all this is you got to give it time. I will get a client who will come on board. We will spend 3 weeks together. Frank, how come I'm not ranking #1 right now for a term like soft drinks, right? We have to be realistic in our goals, and we have to give it time, and we have to stay the course on this. This is true for anything in life, not just SEO, of course, right? You have to give things time. You make an investment or a commitment on something. So you have to stay the course. You have to continue writing your content monthly. and you have to be consistent in that approach. You have to continue to make strides and updates on your website. You have to attack your titles, tags, metadata when you're doing that, your back-end SEO, but you have to give it time when you're doing that. You have a 3-month goal, a 6-month goal, 9-month goal, etc. So I like to look at things in the span of quarters rather than look at it like a stock market ticker, because you're not looking at things in the bigger picture sense. Okay, so give it time. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about some issues here. Google algorithm updates is the bane of my existence and my team's existence. Now this happens a lot. Google will make a change to their algorithm and they don't tell anybody about it. You just kind of like, it's hard to describe, but it's kind of like the start of flu season or something. You don't know which strain of the flu is out there. You get a shot for the one that you think it is, but you could still maybe catch the flu, right? The same is true with Google algorithm updates. So Google will go and make some changes based on what they feel is happening from a ranking position. You have a lot of great leaders in the SEO industry who make observations on what they think it is. My team and I are always looking and researching on that, so we have our ear to the street, so to speak, on that. But Google makes updates all the time. These are some updates from a year or so ago onward. So one of them, for example, was the mobile first one that hit in 2018. So they ranked everything based on having a mobile first. If your website didn't look great on a mobile device, it wasn't fast, it wasn't responsive from a mobile standpoint, goodbye, de-indexed. And this struck a lot of my clients hard. There was a lot of redesigns in that time. There was one for Medic, so that happened after this. And I saw a couple clients, that vitamin one is a good example. So if you didn't have things backed up by the FDA, or you were making claims, so to speak, you've seen a lot of those, Google deranked a lot of that stuff or made changes in the rank results. So if your website wasn't as authoritarian as some of the other websites, like WebMD, for example, you got outranked, and instantaneously. And I've seen traffic drops that were pretty dramatic. This isn't as dramatic, but I've seen like cliffs. We had 30,000 visitors a month that were converting and spending money on our e-commerce website. Now we're only getting 200 visitors a month. What happened? That could be one of the reasons why. Now, if you end up in that situation, that's a professional element. You need to quickly get your way out of there. So you need to strategize with professionals who understand the ins and outs of SEO and what to do to get out of there. Which again, it doesn't happen all the time, but when you get stuck in the mud like that, But what I want you guys to understand or know is, if you're looking at your analytics and you all of a sudden see a tremendous drop in users, visitors, and traffic in general, that could be something that has happened to you. So knowing the signs and symptoms of it will, help you get back on your feet a little quicker. And know just, all right, I need some help here. That's the best I could I could give for you on the algorithm updates, because there's it's a lot of hearsay. It's not, and again, Google never says we made a Medic update. Here's what you got to do to get out of it. That's the whole point of them making updates. We got to kind of figure out what the signs and symptoms are, and then try to figure out how to alleviate that, which a little bit of trial and error, a little bit of A/B testing, but it's, happens quicker than if you were to kind of attack that alone. Okay. I get asked this a lot, and I wanted to explain this from a client standpoint. So here's an example where you have a big boy. You have a big player, in this case Amazon, but Walmart, any big box competitor, someone who's been around forever. Amazon, of course, is the 10,000-pound gorilla. But from an e-commerce standpoint, both are e-commerce sites. You have Amazon, you have my wonderful client here. But so in this scenario, Google dominated all the search for all their competitors, for him and all of his competitors for the longest time. And anything you would possibly search, right? Search for. And you're going to see this if you were to go in and Google any of your stuff. You're going to see maybe a big box competitor or a big competitor there that has been around forever, has a lot of clout in the search, has a big, robust website with a lot of pages, Coca-Cola is a good example of that. That's why I kept mentioning that from a soft drink standpoint. But this is to show you that it is possible to outrank a big box competitor in some of these terms that you want to rank for. Now we have short and long-term goals. One of these were a more long-term goal. We got there. Again, you have to stay the course, give it time. You have to be consistent in your approach. You have to be consistent in how much content or copy you're writing, the quality of the content, the link building you're doing. But if you have a proper strategy in place, you can outrank some of these things. And you ask me, a lot of times it will be, why outrank them? The best thing you could possibly do is dominate the first page of Google, right? And this is a thing I say to some people who come to me, Frank, I have 3 websites and I want to consolidate those 3 websites. If you have the bandwidth to execute those 3 websites, you're working with a partner that, whether it be the digital marketing firm like Active Web Group or whatever you're doing, if you have a great partnership aligned, or you have the ability to service those 3 websites, keep those 3 websites as long as you possibly can, until you have a focus point a reason why you're trying to do that. Maybe you're trying to condense your pay-per-click strategy, or there's a reason why. But if there's not a specific reason why, that gives you the opportunity to own the first page of Google with multiple brands, so to speak, right? But again, that's a strategy you have to make sure you have in place from the get-go. You have to have a plan. Anything in life, you have to have a plan, right? You have to give it time. So if you do those things, you could see yourself outranking some of your competitors. Okay, another thing I like to present here is emerging search technology. So you have your long and short tail key terms, right? The way you phonetically say something, right? I'm not going to say her name, the Amazon A girl. Everything in my house will go off. But the way you say something becomes a search query, right? So a lot of these, the Amazon one is a lot of times going through Amazon, right? So because it's always propositioning you to put money in Jeff Bezos' pocket. But a lot of the other, let's take the Google one, right? So the Google one, for example, that one is searching Google for a lot of these things. So that becomes a search query, right? And the way you would say something is maybe a little different than soft drinks, right? What are some good soft drinks? That might be a long tail key term that you want to rank for. And we have long and short tail key terms, if I didn't make that clear. So ranking for terms based on search query for emerging search technology is a good example of being adaptive in your strategy in terms of SEO, because things, of course, technology is constantly growing, things are constantly changing. So being able to make a dynamic shift there. Okay, I'm going to speed through some of this. I know our time is kind of waning here, but we have Google Ads. Google Ads is the next thing I wanted to talk about. So Google Ads, of course, is a pay-per-click scenario. Essentially, if I wanted to pay for the term soft drink to show up on top of the search, I can. This is your dashboard for Google Analytics. MSN and Bing and some of the other search engines do have their own ad set. Please keep in mind that the second most used search engine is actually YouTube. Number 1 is Google. YouTube is a Google product. I'm not talking about YouTube specifically today, but Google in itself is its own search engine. And they do have their own ad set. Just want to mention that. Okay, but if you're a B2B, you sell, medical instruments to doctors' offices. In this example, you're a B2B. So in that case, you might want to focus on MSN and Bing a little bit. You might want to put a spend allocation there and keep the majority of it in Google. I do see a lot of great opportunity in MSN and Bing where a lot of competitors miss and don't spend any of their time. And you might be able to get up to speed and get some clicks and some conversions there. But I always test the waters. I do A/B tests with this stuff. So just to be clear here, when you see an ad and it's up top, that is an ad around this time of year. If you're a B2B, you're going to see a lot of ads come up because everyone's thinking about their Q1, their fiscal 2022. So there's going to be a lot of ads. But traditionally, you have your ads up top and on the bottom, and then sandwiched in between, you'll have if they're more hard fought terms, then you'll have your search query. A lot of times I'll be so middle of the page with the search, the organic search results. This one's pretty good because number 2 appears the organic results. So that's probably a cheap click. But the ones that are more expensive, you might find, you're midway through the page now with your organic ad. People are going to click on the ad if they're not looking at they're not cognizant that it's an ad, which happens most of the time. So then in that case, you may want to bridge the gap if you're ranking #1, but you're not seeing any conversions because there's so many ads. You might have to bridge the gap with an ad spend. Or I recommend that if you are new to digital marketing in general, you might want to run an ad while you're getting up to speed to rank for stuff, and then tailor off to pay-per-click, or so depending on where you're at from a digital marketing standpoint, pay-per-click and SEO will work hand in hand. That's why they're together in a presentation. There is the Google Shopping feed. There's a freemium shopping feed, which is more of an SEO pursuit, and then this is the sponsored, the paid positions. These can be optimized. These are set up in Google Ads. Okay, and then you have your visual ads. These ones are ones that are put onto various websites. So these are the ones that you see that are more pretty to click on. They're the top rocker banner, the little side piece, the little card, square size looking one on the bottom. These ones will be through AdSense get put onto your website, someone's website. Then you have remarketing advertising, which can be similar to your visual ads. This is the stuff, the voodoo magic you guys see a lot. I'm thinking of a Nike shoe, and all of a sudden it's in my face on my phone every day. That's not a mistake. That's remarketing ad working great. So users will a user exits your site essentially, or from a query and search, right? Then you'll see it on other websites, right? And then you could click back and go back to your website over time, and then whoever gets the points or the monetary value of that click. That's essentially how the remarketing advertising works. Now, pay-per-click advertising, there's a process here. You have your keyword research again. Then you want to get set up, create your ad space. There's a lot in there that has to happen in creation of those ads. Don't just create an ad using a keyword, one keyword. You want to have keyword groups and like-minded keywords. Probably, this in itself could be its own presentation, but you want to have your own keyword groups. So this way, if there's like-minded elements and things, you could rank for them. And then you're shifting around those groups in that bid strategy. You're continually going through and monitoring that approach to get them to maximize conversion with the least amount of dollars. Because again, as I said, it's not fun giving Google a bunch of money for no reason. So, you create your ad. I would develop landing pages, again, as tailored in your messaging as you could get is going to be vital. Again, account setup, tracking is key. You want to have call tracking. CallRail is a great one to use, but Google has one as well. Call tracking. You want to be able to see your benchmarks in Google Analytics, etc. Launch your campaign, monitor the performance, assess it, get some feedback, and then repeat the cycle, right? Okay, and that is my presentation. I sped